In the last 2 years, I've closed millions of dollars in sales and helped almost 100 people do the exact same thing. And through that, I've learned a lot about human behavior, psychology, and how people make decisions. I'm going to give you 3 of the most powerful psychology tactics to be able to move someone to do whatever you want them to do, but make you feel like it's their idea. The only thing I ask is that you don't go ruin people's lives with this because it's powerful. Number 1 is they need to have internal reasons to move forward, not external. The external is simply icing on the cake. And so with this in mind, you need to always be directing your conversation internal. I'll give you an example. A sales example of this is, let's say you sell fitness, right? You help people lose weight. You don't want to lean into things like discounts and fake scarcity of it's here today and it's gone tomorrow, so you have to act. Again, that type of stuff is icing on the cake, but where you really want to direct the conversation is the internal reasons they need to move forward. Being able to have more energy to play with their kids, being able to actually like what they're seeing in the mirror, being able to attract more of the opposite sex. These are going to be the real reasons that they move forward. People are extremely selfish and they need to know 100% what is in it for them and the transformation that's coming from them if they're going to make the decision in your favor. Another example of this, right, that doesn't relate to sales, this is more like a life example, is let's say you and your boy, you guys go to separate gyms and you want him to start coming to your gym. And so you guys have been training together. Now, the only thing is that you are running out of guest passes and you want to convince this friend to sign up to your gym. That's probably more expensive than the gym that he goes to. And so rather than leaning into external things like, oh, they're running a discount or the equipment is so nice, rather than leaning into things like that, you want to lean into the internal of, dude, I was thinking you should come work out at this gym that I go to that we've been going to together, because the environment we're in, plus us being able to train together, I think you're going to be able to hit your goal of benching 225 way faster than if we keep training separate. So I think you should come to my gym. Again, everything that I said there is internal reasons that they need to move forward for themselves, not because of you. So that is number 1, is internal rather than external reasons. The second dark psychology tactic is going to be the use of sayings. Our brain interprets anything that's a saying as automatically correct, whether or not it actually is. And so if you want to get someone to see things in a different way, rather than directly giving them the perspective, you want to pre-frame it with a saying in front of it because they're a lot more likely to absorb it and to believe it. So I'll give you an example, right? Let's say you're selling really anything, and then the person says that they want to go with the cheaper option. They want to go with the competitor because they're cheaper. Rather than trying to convince them of why cheap is bad and giving them all these different arguments and explanations of why going for the lesser option is bad, you're going to pre-frame it and say, can I offer a perspective? Yes. Have you ever heard the saying that the cheapest thing is actually the most expensive one? Have you ever heard that saying? And they're either going to say yes or no, right? What does that mean to you? Like when you hear that, what do you interpret that as? Everyone always kind of interprets it differently. And they're going to tell you that, I guess, when you buy something that's cheaper, it usually ends up being more expensive in the long run. And you're going to ask, why do you think that is? And they're going to say, well, if it's cheaper, then the quality is probably lower. That's right. And so for you, when it comes to going for the cheaper option simply because of the price, do you feel like that can potentially end up being the most expensive one in the long run? Yes. Boom. Right there. Right. You want to leverage a saying first before you give them perspective. Another example of this is, let's say you sell like lead gen, right? You sell a marketing service and the prospect that you're on the phone with, they think that they have a sales problem. And they're like, no, my closers they're not closing these leads. Obviously, you don't sell a sales solution, you sell a marketing solution. And so you don't want their brains going that direction. So what you're going to ask them is, have you ever heard the saying that one of the most dangerous things you could do is solve the wrong problem? Have you ever heard that saying? And then again, tell me what that means. What do you interpret that as? They're going to tell you, well, serving the wrong problem is you're just going to be wasting your time. That's right. And so for you, seeing that we've been having tons and tons of unqualified leads, right? What happens if we put all this energy onto the sales team closing better when it's actually a lead problem? What happens if we solve the wrong problem? What happens then? Oh, I'm going to continue wasting time, yada, yada, yada. And so that is number 2, is the use of sayings to influence people. The final dark psychology tactic is going to be the use of identity framing. Now, there's a lot to unpack with this one, but the reason this is so powerful is because people will do anything to align with the person that they think they are, the identity that they think they are. Now, the thing is, most people don't fully even know or understand who they are. And so if you can paint them to be a specific kind of person who they want to be, they will do anything that they can to act in alignment with that. Because again, the key driver for any decisions that people make is being in alignment with the person that they think they are. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you sell BizOp, right? You're going to ask, what even has you wanting to get support in the first place? Let's say you're teaching people how to launch an Amazon FBA store. What has you even wanting to get support in the first place rather than just go watch a bunch of videos, do a bunch of research and just figure it out yourself? They're going to tell you something along the lines of, paying to speed up the process just makes so much more sense. I don't want to waste a bunch of time, waste a bunch of money. That's good. You're going to reward them for that. And so you're going to say, yeah, and you're smart for that, right? You'd be surprised how many, I don't want to say hard-headed, but people who have that same realization, but then they still go try to watch all the videos and do all the research and try to figure it out on their own. And then they wonder why they're just constantly spinning their wheels. So I'm glad we don't have to have that conversation with you, right? That says a lot about you itself. That person wants to act in alignment with the successful business owner. And so if you can reward them for that and you can frame them as someone who makes decisions like a successful business owner, again, they will act in alignment with that. Or another example of this is in your discovery, right? If you're trying to get ahead of someone saying that they need to think about it, you can ask them, and why is this so important for you to solve now? Why not just put it off, do it tomorrow, the next day, the next quarter, like most people would? Why even get on top of this now? And they're going to tell you, yeah, that's terrible, to procrastinate and to put it off. That's definitely not me, right? They're going to say something along those lines. And again, you're going to reward them. And you're going to be like, and that's good because, you'd be surprised how many people, they want to be entrepreneurs, right? But when it's time to actually do what entrepreneurs do to make the decisions that entrepreneurs make, they want to put it off to tomorrow, or they want to put it off until the next day, or ask their dog or ask their cat, right? So I'm glad that's not the conversation we're having. Again, that says a lot about me. Identity framing is so powerful. I'll probably make a separate video just on this alone. So those are the 3 dark psychology tactics that you can use to convince anyone to do anything that you want them to do without actually feeling like you're convincing them and making it their decision. The only thing I ask is that you don't go ruining people's lives with this, because this is powerful. Thank you for tuning in. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, make sure you drop a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.